Saturday the 4th of May, the National Stadium, red versus blue, North Belfast versus South Belfast, Cliftonville versus Linfield, Magilton versus Healy. This is the boots are off.
I thought we were in here for a bit of crack.
I was going to say gloves are up, but neither of you are keepers, so it doesn't really.
Not seen me play.
Jim was that good. Jim probably could have played in goal. When I first came into the international setup, but I think Jim played right back, centre half, left back, midfield, centre forward, and goalie. I think he was trying to do everybody's jobs, but again, that was part of Jim's big personality when certainly we came into the international setup. But he was a talented player, and again, somebody who I seen as a younger player, as a ball boy at Northern Ireland. Basically, you always wanted to aspire to be a Northern Ireland international, which Jim was.
So see now that we're in the changing room, do you remember that first day you came into the changing room and Jim was here? How did he greet you?
Probably loudly, like he always did. Again, you know, I had a great privilege of coming into the dressing room with hugely, it was littered with strong personalities. Neil Lennon, Steve Lomas, Jerry Taggart, Michael Hughes, Gillespie, all boys with high opinions and boys who were loud, but probably none as loud as Jim.
And in terms of the new kid coming into the block, so to speak, did you have anything up your sleeve to greet them, or were you just trying to be down the line as professional as you can, or do you want to get in their mind, intimidate them?
It wasn't so much intimidation, it was just a graduation. Oh. And some could be quite loud. David was always the silent assassin, and he tortured goalkeepers for bringing up the goalkeeper team. No, we'd heard about this boy, and we'd heard about this boy from Manchester United. Sammy McElroy had spoken glowingly about him, made us all aware of this genius, if you like. And his first couple of training sessions, I have to say, which kind of followed him through his international career, he was quiet until it came to shooting practice. And he had this unerringly wonderful knack of hitting the corner of the net, and got very annoyed with people who would never have a shot, wasted his time, and he lost patience with them. But instantly you knew that there was something going to be very special about him.
In terms of the playing days, how has that transferred your relationship from your playing days into the managerial days?
I was privileged and lucky enough when I stepped away from football at the early stages when Michael was manager and Jim was obviously in and around the coaching setup. So, you know, initially I came in for a little bit to learn, develop. I got the privilege again to work with somebody like Stephen Cregan and Stephen Robinson, who's doing a brilliant job at St Mirren. So, you know, again, I got an early indicator of the hard work and dedication it needed to be a really good coach and a manager. I know Jim had already had a good CV in terms of where he was and where he was managed, not only as a player, but you know, he managed in Australia for a little bit, and obviously basically his club in Ipswich and QPR. So, you know, he had vast experience of that, so he had to learn sort of a new way of sort of being the more improved you're not coming in as David Healy the player, you're coming in as David Healy the coach, who has to learn to adapt to coach and teach younger players. Hopefully that will happen.
I remember David coming into the coaching setup, and he was always going to find it a little bit difficult to communicate to them because their jaws dropped, you know. So that experience for him, I think, helped him. And then obviously when you get the opportunity to manage a Linfield, I got the opportunity to manage Ipswich right after playing. I was 37 and got this unbelievable opportunity to manage what is an institution in terms of, you know, English football in Ipswich Town. So I could identify with where he was feeling, and he was nervous, like we were all nervous and unsure, which we all are. But he soon found a way, and if you look at his success and what he's achieved here, it's nothing short of remarkable.
And probably, like Jim says, you went in at what, 37. I was coming into an environment here where I wasn't most vocal in the dressing room. I wasn't the most demanding, and that probably, as a centre forward, like most of us, probably a little bit selfish. Looked after myself. So I probably wasn't ready to come in and be a manager at Linfield. But the opportunity arose. I spoke to important people, were sort of basically guided me to say, you know, you're maybe ready to take the opportunity. I didn't feel as if I was ready, but it was one that if I had a passed up at the time, somebody else might have grasped the opportunity and had the success that, you know, I went on to have. And as I'm grateful for, you know, everything, the opportunity initially coming in, and then the opportunity at Linfield, that they seen something, believed in me, and, you know, basically I had to learn on the job, as Jim had to do as a player, because, you know, when you have to sit in as a player, as a dressing room, you get your shower after and you sit and have a bit of banter with players, you get your lunch, and then everybody disappears and you don't see each other until the next day or whenever the next training session is. As a manager, even here, I'm sure Jim's the same, and he's always been the same, that, you know, you go home and there's about 10 emails that you have to respond to, look at. There's somebody who's not playing in the team whose agent wants to speak to you, or there's a player brave enough to want to come and ask you why they're not in a starting 11. So it's all channeled into, basically, people say jobs are 24/7. Being a manager at this level is 24/7, because there's absolutely always something to do, and there's always some sort of minor issue which, if you don't deal with, can become a major problem somewhere along the line. So learning on the job, like Jim says, I certainly done that, and I had to do it very quickly. You don't get the opportunity to hang about at Linfield too long if you're not doing some sort of decent job.
And that's part of it as well. Obviously, you have your reputations as players. How has that changed from transferring from being a player into being a manager? Obviously, being here, we've chatted. You're, Jim, definitely coming across as more vocal in the dressing room. Have you kept that sort of style with your coaching as well, or?
Staying out of the change room allows players, especially younger players, to integrate quicker. You can build relationships with players, good, bad or indifferent. They have to see you being honest. Okay. And at times they have to see you lose your temper, because we vent our frustrations. A lot of it is venting frustrations after games, because players set standards. Of course, the staff and the manager set high standards, or should, right? And when players who go out week in, week out and set high standards and they fall below it, then at times you have to let them know.
But I would imagine you are a completely different manager from the initial stages going in. And again, and say I've known Jim a long time, I think you've mellowed in terms of maybe your tone of voice and everything else. But again, you've learned to adapt to that. My early stages coming in here at Linfield, that, you know, I was falling out with players every other week, and I got to a stage after I was new to the job that I think we lost four Saturdays in a row. And people were questioning me whether I was the right temperament for the job. You know, maybe he's too quiet and whatever else, even though they didn't know that I was absolutely taking the roofs off dressing rooms, because we were getting beat week in, week out at the early stages. But nowadays, sometimes there's bits and pieces that happen during the week or happens in games where you have to be a little bit more, I'd say, acceptable to, but more understanding to, that you can't keep losing, you know, your temper. You can't keep falling out with players, because eventually they'll not appreciate any times when you do actually need to blow your top with them. And that's something that, again, that, you know, you learn with experience, and no doubt, knowing you the length of time that I have, that the early stages going in at Ipswich to where you are now, you're more adaptable, more understanding to different situations.
Yes.
Yeah.
And into the head-to-head in the cup final this season, it's swinging Linfield's way in the head-to-head so far this season. How does that?
Don't start that.
How does that approach, or how does that affect your approach?
Well, it'll affect me more than it'll affect him.
On that, I'd answer first, because I know Jim will probably have his own twist on it. The 3 games that we've already played, obviously we have the game leading into the cup final, where there'll probably be, I'd say, a lack of intensity. That would be wrong and disrespectful to both teams and the players that are going to play on the day. That will be probably not played to to the same intensity that the cup final is going to be. But we've had 3 games we played. We won at Solitude 1-0. Chris McKee scored. I think it was a mistake. I don't know who made the mistake.
Luke Turner.
That's why you
bombed.
That's why you bombed them in January. And I've no doubt the way these boys will work, they'll be throwing some sort of seeds mentality at it coming into the cup final to say, well, you haven't beat Linfield, here's the perfect opportunity. And on my side of it, we'll be guarding against we'll certainly have no thoughts of complacency or any game mentioned that we played against Cliftonville this year or any other year, and our mindset going into the cup final.
I think the third game we were well beaten on the night, and yeah, we did have opportunities, but I thought Linfield controlled the game. The other 2 games were closer, but I agree with David. The Saturday, will be a game that we both have a look at each other.
He's already told me it's time for Saturday, so
it's a one-off game, and
it's a full stadium as well.
It's a full stadium. There'll be loads of noise. Both sets of fans will be vociferous in their support of their team, and that's what we like, and that's what the sort of atmosphere we want to bring to this occasion.
We've seen enough of each other throughout the year. I know Jim watched us.
Too much?
I wouldn't say too much. Sometimes Jim becomes too much, and sometimes I'm sure I'm too much for Jim at different times. I asked him 4 times out there, all okay when we first met today, and I think I got to about the 4th one, and I was actually trying to wind him up then. He says, I'm all okay, stop asking me. But the cup final I seen, as I say, there's not going to be any secrets the way anybody's going to play in the cup final. I don't think unless Jim's going to change a back 3 to a back 4, come to a cup final. But
well, you never know.
No, but again, they've had huge success. I watched them in the semi-final against the champions, which are now Larne, and I basically it gave me sort of food for thought going into the game that we played Larne recently. The way you played the game, I thought you were magnificent on the day, fully deserved, and if anything, probably 2-0, or the scoreline actually flattered, Larne on the day. So we're well aware of each other. We know the league inside out. I don't think there's going to be any secrets, apart from the odd maybe hand signal or something from a corner that Jim and Skinner maybe may try and come up with in the lead up into the cup final.
And who do you think has had the easiest run to get to the final?
Linfield.
Jim. I don't even know who you. Apart from Larne, obviously semi-final. It didn't matter who we sort of got. We avoided each other in the semi-final, and we probably got the team where you're sort of thinking if we could have, Linfield Glentoran in the semi-final. You're sort of thinking away from home. Would have preferred something a little bit different, but we managed to sort of get through, and I'm sure, I know obviously Jim and Cliftonville ended up beating Larne on the day, deservedly so. It was probably a draw at the time. You're sort of thinking, Larne are a good side, but it was the top 4 in the league. We ended up getting through. I don't know who else you played, and
Coleraine away was tough. Went the extra time, and again a Ronan Hill hat-trick, bit of magic. Sorted that one out. We had Loughgall at home, and then we had Portadown away, and Portadown hadn't lost a cup game. And massive congratulations to Niall Curry and Portadown. They're back in the Premiership. But that was a tough game, quarter-final, tough game away from home, Friday night. Potential banana skin.
So he's trying to sell it that they had the tougher.
So tough. It has been tough. And
we were 2-0 down after half an hour against Warren Point in the first round, the 5th round of the Irish Cup, where again our crowd weren't best pleased. Let's say we were disjointed. We were all over the place. We found a way to score. I think Chris McKee scored in and around 40 minutes. We went in at half time, sort of 2-1 down, but saying give us some sort of platform to go and build in the second half. At Windsor, if you're 2-0 down at half time, sometimes it's a really, really tough challenge to come back from 2-0 down in the second half. But we found a way. We won 4-2 in the end. but that was a real scare, a real wake-up call to us at the time that you can't take anybody for granted. And I think footballers in general it's a competitive nature that we have. It's you want to be not in a selfish way, you want to be successful.
In a totally selfish way.
Yes. Well, you're a wee bit more selfish than...
What it is, because at the end of the day, a string of bad results, the manager loses his job.
Yes.
So you have to be brutally selfish in terms of that.
How are the confidence levels as we sit here around the table now?
Now you've come to the end of the season and things have been sorted. It's something to really look forward to. It's a huge motivation factor now for both clubs, for both sets of players. David's already had a trophy in the bag. He took Lauren toe to toe to the wire, and now there's an Irish Cup final. And I'm sure his players will want a vindication of, a long season. The same group, same applies to our group. I'm in at the season. I want these players to believe that they can compete against the top clubs in this league, and they have an opportunity to do that. I don't get caught up. I appreciate greatly the history of clubs. If you look at his history with this club, I'm a great believer in it, and I really appreciate what's happened in the past. But come Saturday, it's totally irrelevant. It's what happens on the day. The lads have got an opportunity to be history makers. Both sets of players have got an opportunity to be history makers. Cliftonville have had a long-standing relationship with the Irish Cup. It's their holy grail, if you like.
It'll probably come down to hopefully not a mistake by a player, because again, that's cruel. Maybe a little bit of individual brilliance by somebody. As desperate as I am to be successful, you want the players to embrace the occasion and enjoy it, because we played in cup finals here before. There's been 9,000-10,000 at it, 11,000, and you still get a great sense of the environment and the atmosphere. But I think this time it's going to be even greater, with Cliftonville are in the North Stand and the Cup, and we're in the South and Railway. So it's the full ground. There's going to be a huge turnout. Expectant supporters from both sides. And I just hope on the day that everything happens on the pitch and everything off the pitch, because again, as a club, we on Cliftonville, certainly in my time here, have went out of our way to make sure things are done properly. So you just hope on the day that everything goes smoothly and Linfield win.
And Cliftonville win.
And that's it. On the 4th of May, all will be decided. Will it be Cliftonville? Will it be Linfield? Time will tell. If you want to smack each other now, you can. That's, yeah.
Come on, Chip.
Come on, David.